I am a biohacker. My health is my most valuable asset. No possession can make up for its absence. I leverage ancient wisdom, modern science, and expert guidance to optimize my life. My body and mind adapt to stress. Therefore, the next phase of my evolution is forged in the fires of discomfort. This morning, my slides are a little jacked up. This morning, after going to bed at 3:30 a.m., working on these slides for you guys, I woke up at 7:45. I got a workout in. I jumped in the Baltic. These are the hard things that will usher in the next phase of our evolution so that the people who depend on us can be served at the highest level. Who am I? I wrote a book called The Biohacker's Guide to Upgraded Energy and Focus that's done 50,000 copies worldwide. I have a podcast called The Biohacking Secrets Show. That's one of the top 10%. It's in the top 10% of all podcasts across all industries. And I'm the secret weapon to many high performers, which we'll discuss a little bit later. I've been honored to have guests like the greatest big wave surfer of all time, Laird Hamilton, 26-time Guinness World Record holder Wim Hof, and P90X's Tony Horton, along with the Stanford professor of neurobiology, Dr. Andrew Huberman, on the show. But the journey hasn't been easy. I was prescribed antidepressants, specifically Prozac, at the age of 19. At the time, I lacked the weapons I needed to overcome what I was dealing with. In 2011, it got a little better. I was diagnosed with Lyme disease, which some of you may know is the great imitator. It mimics the symptoms of over 200 other diseases. So to say I had to get good at diagnostics and following a scientific method of applying protocols to improve my body and my mind and my life is an understatement. Here are some of the warning signs. Is it possible to put my slides on the full screen? Here are some of the warning signs that I experienced that may be indications that you're dealing with toxic overload. Diet-resistant weight, sleep-resistant fatigue, anxiety or depression, pain in your body, memory issues, and brain fog, just to name a few. This started a decade-long quest involving dozens of different doctors to figure out what was wrong with me and to come up with a system that I could share with the world so that other people didn't have to experience the pain that I was going through. I went to the extremes. I did a lot of the things that we're told to do. I avoided grains, dairy, alcohol, corn, vegetable oils. Wasn't enough. I worked out like a lunatic. It wasn't enough. It actually made it worse. I used a number of different serotonin precursors, like St. John's wort, 5-HTP, SAMe. Wasn't enough. I did hundreds of coffee enemas. That actually happened and is a video on the interwebs if you want to check it out. Not enough. Hormone optimization, not enough. 500 plus cold plunges, still not enough. Daily saunas, not enough. 100 plus ozone treatments, major autohemotherapy, plus ultraviolet blood irradiation, rectal insufflation, ozone saunas, every way it could be administered, I did it. I moved to Florida from Chicago to get more sun, still not enough. I took rapamycin, which is an mTOR inhibitor, not enough. I did thousands of yoga sessions, not enough. I took GDF11, which helps to improve stem cell function and DNA. Not enough. I did all sorts of odd PEMF and light hacks. Not enough. I did 8 ketamine infusions administered by a medical professional. For those of you that aren't familiar with ketamine, it's a horse tranquilizer that has a growing body of scientific literature in its efficacy against depression. Not enough. Dozens of ultraviolet intravenous light therapy treatments. Not enough. Adipose-derived stem cells. Not enough. Dozens of acupuncture, massage, and cupping treatments. Not enough. Nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide infusions, dozens of those. Not enough. I slept in this altitude tent for a few months like a bubble boy. Still not enough. I even smoked the psychedelic toad, Bufo alvarius, that contains 5-MeO-DMT. And you guessed it, not enough. I realize some of this may sound like your typical hedonistic college student Saturday night out. But I promise you, for me, it was much more than that. It was a battle to prove to myself that I was not shackled to this pill for life. All this continued until I found myself in the jungles of Costa Rica. And I'll share some of these detox-based biohacks that helped me break free from paternal familial depression and Lyme disease in just a few seconds. Over the past decade, working alongside many of the top doctors, researchers, university professors, and scientists in the world, helping elite athletes like 3-time Stanley Cup winner Duncan Keith from the Chicago Blackhawks, PayPal founder Peter Thiel, and ClickFunnels CEO Russell Brunson to optimize their performance, and working one-on-one with men and women from all walks of life who are the best in the world at what they do from every corner of the globe, I've learned 3 things to be true. These are some of the same biohacks that helped Frank. I was working with Frank's sister, Nikki. She had Lyme disease. She said, "Can you please talk to my brother, Frank? I'm concerned he's dying." The night before, let me give a little background. Frank had gone from being a healthy entrepreneur to shutting down his business, to moving in with his parents, to losing the ability to walk, to then being in a wheelchair. This was when we got on the phone. The night before, he'd gone to the bathroom at his parents' home, and the pain was so bad he couldn't get off the toilet. He called for help from his father, and his father came in, but when his father was trying to lift him off the toilet, the pain was too great. Frank said, "Leave me here." Finally, he was able to get into the wheelchair, but as his father pushed him out of the bathroom, just the tires of the wheelchair hitting the grout between the tiles sent a shockwave of pain through his body so bad he slept in the bathroom. This is a picture of Frank after we'd started working together. You can see he's able to stand there, but he still looks like he's in pretty rough shape. This is 9 months later. Frank came to our event, the Ultimate Biohacking Experience, on crutches. I told him, "Come, just show up. You're going to get value from it. Do what you can." He planked for 10 minutes and beat every guy there. I asked him, "Frank, how'd you just do that?" He said, "Do you really want to know?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "I'm microdosing LSD right now. I'm seeing fractals." This is 9 months later after Frank finished a jog on the beach. These are the same strategies that allowed Branch to naturally increase his testosterone from 497 to 745 with no hormone replacement therapy. Increases deep sleep by 218%. The same strategies that allowed Jessica to finally conquer her chronic fatigue and increase her deep sleep almost 400%. And Dennis, who's the man to your right of me, my left in the picture, to get rid of his cancer in less than a week. The biohacks I'm about to share are empirical in nature. Most importantly, they've been proven to work in the real world, in the trenches where it counts. Here are the 3 things I now believe to be true. Number 1, the root cause of most diseases and suboptimal performance can be boiled down to 4 root causes: infections, stress, toxins, and deficiencies. In this presentation, we're going to focus on infections and stress. Number 2, all self-actualization, whether conquering disease or optimizing performance, is preceded by heightened awareness, heightened consciousness, which explains why it's so important for us to test and not guess. Each step that we take with a new client begins with a battery of tests, looking at their genetics, their hormones, a functional genomic analysis, their VO2 max to assess mitochondrial function, everything that we need in order to know exactly what's going on inside their body and build out a customized game plan for that client. We have a proprietary health assessment that looks at all of these key areas. Deficiencies like vitamin D, magnesium, high cholesterol and heart disease, iron dysregulation, high blood pressure, digestive issues, diabetes, you get the idea. Here are some of the labs that we use for identifying infections, and you'll see why this is important in just a minute. Our proprietary health assessment, which I just mentioned. DNA Connections has a urine PCR test with ultrasound provocation that is one of the best tests for identifying Lyme disease and other infections. A small intestinal bacterial overgrowth breath test by Commonwealth Laboratories. We look at viral infections and LPS bacterial infections through a test from medical diagnostic laboratories. We look at Epstein-Barr viral antibodies and cytomegalovirus antibodies. The third thing, the toxins most responsible for body fat and fatigue are infections. And the exponentially increased amount of biotoxins they produce in the presence of electromagnetic fields, like from your cell phone, your laptop, your Wi-Fi router. Anyone here seen this Time magazine article on inflammation from a few years ago? Inflammation, the secret killer. We're all aware of this surrogate endpoint and the role that inflammation plays in disease, but where does it come from? We put on our biohacker hats. There's a lot of different sources. This is what I'm working with over here. There's a lot of different sources of inflammation. High blood sugar, excess body fat, a sedentary lifestyle, autoimmunity, leaky gut. But we need to start thinking bigger. With an exponential increase in inflammation, we have to look at what are the exponential increases in toxicities in our lives. This is a graph that shows our increased exposure to electromagnetic radiation. In the past 100 years, that's how much greater our exposure has become. I'll explain why that's a problem in just a minute. Even in just the last 10 years, we have a hockey stick effect going on where we are exposed to millions of times higher amounts of radiation than just a decade ago. Here are some of the proven dangers of EMFs. It produces mitochondrial damaging free reactive nitrogen species called peroxynitrate that cause hormonal imbalances, DNA breaks, and inflammation. A 2016 National Toxicology Program study under the National Institute of Health that was a $30 million study linked wireless radiation to cancer. A 2018 Italian study confirmed the findings of this 2016 study. Don't worry, I'm not just going to scare you guys. I'm going to give you strategies that you can use to mitigate this stuff. Here are some of the things that we've observed with EMF. It entrains the brain and our nervous system into a highly stressful state. It keeps us in chronic fight or flight, otherwise known as sympathetic dominance. Why is that an issue? Because digestion and detoxification occur in parasympathetic, rest and digest. Add to that the fact that it's now proven that EMF breaks down both the blood-brain barrier and the gut barrier, and what we have is a perfect storm leading to the increasing amounts of neurodegenerative disease, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia. If you want to protect your brain, you need to mitigate the source of the issue. Here's this study showing the degradation of the gut and the blood-brain barrier from EMF. Other studies found clear evidence of tumors in the hearts of male rats when exposed to EMF, evidence of tumors in the brains and in the adrenal glands. If you look at the top 3 causes of death, once you isolate for suicide, smoking, and infant mortality, it's heart disease, cancer, and neurodegenerative disease. Here's the big thing. Mold exposed to EMF produces 600 times more biotoxin. What we have here is not a mold issue. It's a radiation issue. Researchers at New York City's Albert Einstein College of Medicine found that certain fungi, like Candida, have the ability to use radioactivity as an energy source for growth. Russian scientists report that EMF induces growth in yeast strains as well. Jessica Wilson had a case of chronic fatigue that we couldn't solve. Her deep sleep was in the gutter. We found out her home was at the intersection of multiple cell towers, and on top of that, she had black mold throughout. It wasn't until we addressed those things that she started to improve. Here's our observation, working in the trenches with clients. The good bacteria in our gut and in our body grow much slower in the presence of EMF. And a key takeaway for you guys, bad pathogenic bacteria, mold, and fungi grow faster in the presence of EMF and produce, as I mentioned, up to 600 times more biotoxins that your body and your liver then has to deal with. Whipped cream on top, the biological effect of these happenings is multiplied in the presence of viral infections, which tend to reside in the liver and compromise phase 1 and phase 2 detoxification. And the negative health and performance implications are made even worse when heavy metals are present. Call this the antenna effect. It's critical that we focus on the exponential, not the incremental. So here are some examples of the incremental. Small improvements, 1 to 10%. Avoid toxins in food and drink. Do heavy metal detoxes. Blood glucose and ketone monitoring. Weight training and high-intensity interval training. It doesn't mean that these things are not valuable. It just means they're not going to get you the 10x result that you're going for. To get exponential results, we have to get to the root cause. There's 3 steps to this, and I'm going to break it down for you guys in actionable takeaways that you can apply immediately. Step 1, dramatically reduce your EMF exposure. Step 2, increase the voltage, the amount of electricity and electrons in your body, and restore healthy thermoregulation, which every biological process requires. And then decrease infections. So, step number 1, to dramatically reduce EMF, get yourself a little meter like this. It's an ENV RD10 meter. It's very simple how it works. You turn it on, you put it in RF mode, which stands for radio frequency. You turn the beeping, the noise on. Get the area where you work, the area where you sleep, and when you travel, all under 2 green lights with no beeps. Pay attention to the way you're using technology, especially your phone and your computer, and your proximity to Wi-Fi. Doing that will already start setting the stage for a healthier environment. Here's what's usually required. Switching from Wi-Fi to Ethernet. There, I said it. I resisted for a long time, but it was one of the most profound positive impacts on my health out of anything I've done. You hardwire your computer and laptop so that you can turn off the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth so that it's not transmitting with your hands on it the entire day. Keep your phone screen time under 2 hours with the phone in airplane mode when you're not using it. And as many of you are probably already doing, use blue light blocking glasses when interfacing with a screen. Step number 2, restore the electricity in your body, the electrons, and healthy thermoregulation. The easiest way to do this, 120 to 180 minutes of steady state cardio per week, preferably fasted, preferably in the morning. If you want a bonus, then add the sauna and ice bath after, but it's not a substitute for. It's in addition to. This is a picture taken last week. I look like a super creep with my tongue out. My brother caught that and pointed it out to me and sent me a picture of Joaquin Phoenix in Gladiator doing something similar. But here I am with a couple of my closest friends for morning sunrise meditation. I look toward the sun, I do breath work, and I get in the ocean for a swim to charge my body up with electrons and harmonize with the frequency of the earth. It gives me 2 to 4 extra hours per day of productivity. Additional benefits of these behaviors: improve thermoregulation, which I mentioned. A lot of these infections attack the thyroid and the adrenal gland and our hormonal systems. As such, our body is unable to maintain the temperature that it needs for all of our biological functions to happen the way they're supposed to. It provides increased oxygen to your tissues, increased oxygen efficiency, and it enhances detoxification through both the liver and the skin. And then step number 3, you have to decrease the infections. 2 ways I've found most effective to do this: kill protocols and plant medicine. Some of the kill protocols that we use: diluted 35% food-grade hydrogen peroxide, cemento, which is an extract of cat's claw. We use pectosol and diatomaceous earth to bind to some of the toxins these infections produce in the gut. We use systemic and proteolytic enzymes along with nutrimetics, stevia as biofilm busters. Biofilms are some of the protective matrices that these infections use to evade our immune system. We also use oregano and a number of other substances. So earlier I mentioned my transformation in the jungles of Costa Rica. This is a picture that was taken at Rhythmia with some of the people that were going through similar transformations. I went there to do ayahuasca. Has anyone here heard of ayahuasca? It's a natural antidepressant, antibacterial, antiviral, and antiparasitic medicinal plant that's been used for thousands of years. From my work with clients and personal experience, I also believe it is a potential solution to chronic infections like Lyme disease, Babesia, which is a blood parasite, toxoplasmosis, which is responsible for the crazy cat lady syndrome, and something that 80% of the people in Brazil have, along with cytomegalovirus, hepatitis, and herpes simplex virus that are very difficult to treat, especially with a compromised immune function or autoimmunity. When I was at Rhythmia, I was prepared to either have an experience that felt like I was communicating with source energy, God, whatever vernacular you prefer for that higher power. I was also prepared to go through hell because I'd heard there were some challenging experiences. I went to the crucible, had one of the hardest nights of my life, but woke up the next morning finally feeling like the 1,000-pound gorilla that had been trying to choke me out for the past 10 years was off my back. I had to record a couple podcasts, which was rough, but a couple hours later, I passed a parasite after doing dozens of anti-parasite protocols. The ayahuasca got it. Some of the ways that it works, it contains DMT, dimethyltryptamine, substance I mentioned earlier in the psychedelic toad. It's also an MAOB inhibitor that has powerful antidepressant effects. And it allows you to deal with stuff from your past that may not even be in your conscious awareness. Some of the key takeaways, guys. Test, don't guess. Dramatically reduce your EMF exposure. Increase your voltage and thermoregulation. And then kill infections using kill protocols that strengthen your immune system, assist your immune system, and if you decide and feel called to, plant medicine. I want to leave you guys with this. There's greatness inside of you. A greatness so powerful that to try to compare it to the current version of your reality would be like trying to compare the flame from a match to the sun. Your pain is your gift. It ignites the desire inside of you to become more. Do the right hard things every single day and step forth into the next phase of your evolution. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a little bit of time, so one question. When I was asking earlier how many have kids, quite many have. What about kids and cell phones? What would you say? Is it like total nonsense because every kid wants to have one nowadays? And how long a day should they be using them? Like what's the maximum time if you would decide?
Good questions. So being fully transparent, I don't have any children, so I haven't dealt with the real world challenges of this question. What a lot of our clients do is they recognize the fact that kids, many times their skulls are not fully formed and they're far more susceptible to these radiations. So what our clients will do is they'll have time limits on how many hours or minutes in the day their kids can use their phones. Their phones stay downstairs or in the parents' bedroom to charge, and they monitor their screen time. So it allows the kids to stay connected, but there are also parameters that keep them safe and healthy. The same way that a lot of our parents probably made us eat healthy food that we didn't want to eat, but in hindsight, we're glad they did. I think that we can apply some of those principles to our own children.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's give an applause.